On the Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Recyard every Wednesday night. Hey, everyone. It is Wednesday night, and we are on the Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marci Marie. Toonchi. You all might not be surprised, but the Toonchinator is tardy after we just posted that video about her being late all the time. And that's okay, because I know she's going to hop in at any moment. Don't worry. We have a great show for y'all tonight. We are talking about 1, 2, 3 on a 4-step. Some of y'all, that may have triggered. Honestly, we're talking about field squad work inside of Texas prisons. And I have a surprise for y'all. It's not just me and Toonch, or just me, as it turns out at the moment, but we have a very special guest, someone that Toonch and I both know from inside of Texas prisons, Destiny Villarreal. Destiny was on the Dr. Lane Murray unit with me. She was a powerhouse advocate inside, advocating not only for herself, but other incarcerated people. And she is doing big things already. And I'm really excited to introduce her. I can't believe Toonch isn't here yet. I'm going to go ahead and change the order of things since we're just flying by the seat of our pants around here. I want to welcome everybody in. I see y'all in the chat. I already see y'all coming in. I'm so glad. And Toonch says she's here. The nerve of her to private chat me and say, I'm here. I'm in the waiting room. Welcome to the show, Toonch.
Look, I've had a rough day, Marci. I've had a very rough day. Looks like my camera's lagging. I'm just a mess today.
I did get a text from you. You are not feeling well. And I got a text, and I'm just going to actually just read it. Let me pull up my phone right here. See, not everything's public. When you're in the public's eye, you are a superstar on the Recyard Women's Prison Podcaster. And so it's for public. And I think that it went something like, I'm lying naked on the floor and I just puked.
That is correct.
So 100%. Really we're grateful you're here, and we're sorry that you're not feeling well. And also it just feels like there's always something going on with you, girl.
Well, whether it's my physical health or my emotional health, one way or the other, I'm not well.
Yes, that's the same for me. I see y'all in the chat. Carrie S is here, Crystal's here, AIC's advocate is here, and they always remind me to remind y'all to like the live, share the live, comment on the live. If you're watching on your phone, y'all tap that screen, show us some big love. I'm fighting with my voice, Toonch, so I'm going to need a little help tonight.
Woo, boy, aren't we a mess? Thank God Destiny's here, because the two of us are real, I'm just going to say it, probably older women here.
Oh,
that just you didn't like that?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with age. I mean, your symptoms might have to do with age. Mine just have to do with overusing my voice for the past several weeks.
Because those vocal cords are older. They're wearing out. Baby, you just told everybody I was naked on the floor covered in vomit.
Well, I want them to understand. I want them to understand the sacrifices you make, even though you were naked on the floor, puking. You are still here on the Recyard, because even when we're sick inside and our friends tell us you better be at rec, we show up. We go out.
We're there.
For sure. Toonch, Destiny's here. She's in the waiting room. Before we bring her on in just a moment, because I know y'all want to hear from her, and I'm really excited to hear her thoughts also. But let's do this first. Let's do a weekly recap recap. Do you remember how your week has been?
Well, this weekend we all went to the Higher Education and Prison Conference in
We were in
Huntsville.
Huntsville. We were in Huntsville, Texas, at a conference that Lee College presented, and we were with a bunch of incredible formerly incarcerated people. But really, we like hanging with the gals and highlighting the gals. And there was a good number of us there.
There was, and y'all, me and Marcy and Lori were staying in a room together, and I had the worst nightmare of my entire life. It was terrible. I had to call Diane in the middle of the night. She was the only one awake. I think it. Barbara said it's just this town. It's this town that has bad vibes.
Being in that prison town, maybe, yeah, a bad history.
Well, Lori slept well, so I think maybe it might have been attached to her. I don't know.
Well, we did, before we went to Huntsville, I went to Houston and I got to deliver the keynote at a conference for an organization called Partners for Justice. Big shout out to them. They are doing big works, including helping to bridge the gap with racial and economic disparities in the criminal legal system, really acting as advocates and offering wraparound services for those that are currently fighting cases and getting off of probation and re-entering. So that was really nice. And then, man, it was busy. Then we hit H-Town again on Saturday because Lioness has opened up in Houston, and Harris County, they better watch out because we're there.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. If Gino's watching, I was so happy to see Gino. That just really, that made my whole, I love seeing everybody, but like I hadn't seen Gino since we got out, and that was my little bunkie.
Yeah, that was my bunkie.
Cooking her ass off for me.
Yes. Yes, it was good seeing a lot of familiar faces, and I got to meet people like Shell and Lindsay and Natalie, folks that I had only met online. And so it was really incredible, like to hug their neck and see them in person. And then I hopped in on the Houston virtual meeting tonight, and they've got big things going already. And I'm really super excited.
Any excuse now that I have to go to H-Town.
Yeah. Yeah, that I feel the same way. And then this weekend, I'm hopping over to Minneapolis, and I'm going to get to present at an event hosted by the Right Cause Urban Youth Conservation. Big shout out to them. They are doing incredible work. Home-based in the DFW area, but also doing things, obviously, in other places like California and Minnesota. So that's going to be fun. What'd you do last night, Toonch?
Went to go see Melissa Etheridge.
How was that?
It was fun. It was Melissa Etheridge and Jewel. For everyone, I mean, that's showing my age big time. It was a lot of fun, though. It was fun.
Well, I'm glad you had fun. I'm slightly jealous, and I don't think that's showing my age. It's just showing Melissa Etheridge is an incredible artist. And then to be lifted up and presented by Jewel, that's...
Oh, yeah. Hey, and there's a documentary she did called I'm Not Broken, where she did some concerts in the women's prison in Kansas. So watch that if you get a chance.
Yeah, we've got to check it out. So we are going to dive right into the heart of the show of what we're talking about tonight, which is good old Ho Squad. 4-ho, 2-3-4-ho turnout.
Oh boy.
And let's bring Destiny on because she has some things to share about that, and I sure want to introduce her to y'all. Destiny.
Hey.
Glad you could make it.
Oh, honey, I barely made it though. I barely made it by a wing and a prayer. I did, but Marcy was right. If you made a rec date, you better keep it. I don't care if you have dead. You better be on that rec yard in the rain. So
yep, rain, sleet, or snow. Don't we know it?
Seriously though, and you don't know when they're going to call it again. So if they call it, you better show up.
That's right. That is the truth, especially in the system. You better be ready an hour ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, they could call it early. They could call it and only give you 20 seconds to get your
Yep.
ID and get to the door, get your house in compliance. So for sure, I want to give Destiny the introduction that she so deserves. I already laced y'all up that Destiny had. She's done a significant amount of time. Tunch and I both know her from the inside. Destiny, I want you to introduce yourself. Please let us know how much time you did and let us know what you're doing now because you're doing things with Linus and doing some incredible work there in San Antonio.
Yeah. So, of course, my name is Destiny. Bless you, Marcy. My name is Destiny. I went into the system at 16 years old. I did 25 years flat. I came out at 41. I've only been out since December. Of course, I'm part of Lioness, and that is the first thing that I got hooked up with because you have to stay plugged in. You have to be plugged in with somewhere and somebody. If you're religious, a church is real good. But the lioness showed me some love. As soon as I stepped out the door, everybody was there waiting for me, trying to find my way because, of course, it's not easy. Once you've been in there, you can't not um, think that you cannot be institutionalized because we are institutionalized in one form or another. You can lie and deny it, but we are institutionalized, whether you're gone 3 days, 2 days to 5 months. So I came out, I got hooked up with Latino Justice Organization. I was part of cohort, being able to write and just fight for our rights because a lot of us don't think that we have rights out here, especially being justice impacted and formerly incarcerated. So that was one thing that I was able to do. Of course, Mandy and Jennifer got me hooked up and plugged into that with Jorge. And that was one of the most amazing experiences that I was able to get, like coming out here, because coming out of prison after 25 years, you kind of lose hope a little bit because you don't know that there's actually things that you can do positively. A lot of people come out here thinking that the only jobs that you can get are warehouse jobs because you have done so much time, and society makes you think that because been gone. If you have a felony on your back. So that was one of the things that I was grateful for. So being involved in Lioness, I also volunteered with Free Texas. That was a good experience within itself. It gave me the experiences that I need to be able to cultivate where I'm at today. Of course, you don't stay somewhere for too long because you continue to grow. But of course, everybody knows that my home is Lioness. It's always. So here lately, I've been involved with Big Homie Street Mentoring and Street Ministry. And that's one of the biggest things in San Antonio is because of course our people perish for lack of knowledge, but these kids, right? I went in the system at 16. Jennifer went in at the young age too, because I remember when we were over there at Riverside. We went from over there from Hilltop to Riverside. So like we went in at a young age. So these kids they feel like nobody understands them, right? So just sharing a little bit about my background. I was molested as a kid. I was raped as I got older. I was just as impacted with my father incarcerated and my mother raising us. So most of these kids will say like, "You don't know what it's like." Well, I know what it's like, but your circumstances doesn't have to define who you are today, right? You use that to empower yourself and get over it. Trauma is still there, and I'm still working through it. Like even too, she gets angry. She gets angry, but it's justifiable anger, especially when we're fighting for a cause that's greater than ourselves, but we use our experiences to fuel that, right? So I'm also part of Thugging for Christ. So Thugging for Christ, it's like people are like, what Thugging for Christ? What does that even mean? Okay, so Thugging for Christ is actually a nonprofit organization, and they serve 18 to 24, and they're nothing but the male, right? They have a home, and most of these guys that are there, which right now I think it's like seven, have been fostered out of the system, so they fall into the cracks. They fall into the cracks. The person, the CEO and founder, and his wife actually were homeless. They were on drugs and everything, but they use that to empower something greater. And the vision is amazing. So I'm actually the lead case manager there now. And that's just the beginning. Yeah, that's just the beginning because God has told me like stay the course because it's always like you're not getting paid here, you're not getting paid there, but it's a lot more than just getting money. My passion, my drive, it's to help other people. They cannot put a dollar amount on that. So I had to stay true to my beliefs, my core values, and what I stand for. Um, so being there, I actually go in there and I do the one-on-ones with the guys, do the intake with them, and they're no older than 24. So I can only imagine the people that have fallen in the cracks. Their stories are similar to a lot of ours, right? Had somebody have been there to help me, I probably wouldn't have gone down that road. And right now it's only a male shelter, but I can only imagine what's to come. What's to come. So that's what I'm actually doing, just continuing to give back to the community in that sense, right? Because again, our people perish for lack of knowledge. And I was even talking to Steve Huerta yesterday, um, because each one teach one, right? If we can just reach one, it's worth it all. That 25 years that I done, it's worth it all. If I can just reach one with that experience. So that's actually where I'm at right now. Um, is it where I'm staying at? Guy,
No, no,
guys,
you're
guys,
yeah, you first
guys.
of all, you sound already like ready to rock and roll with using the power of narrative and influencing and changing things with your story. And I cannot wait to see you at the legislative session coming up because you are a firecracker and I am so proud to know you and see you grow so very quickly after getting out of prison. And I can't not mention that everything that you said right now that you're doing after 25 years of incarceration, you are doing it while navigating parole
Oh,
on a GPS
yeah,
ankle
I
monitor.
can show you the GPS, and you know firsthand because I told you I cannot go nowhere. But by the grace of God, I have an amazing parole officer, and there it's built not to help us. It's not. They're expecting us to fail. They are expecting us to fail. But man, it's been amazing. I have not been able to attend every event that I want to, but it doesn't stop me from speaking out. It is. So for today, I don't know if I shared. So today, right? They had this thing in San Antonio, and it's on the mountaintop. So it's at the police headquarters, right? And I didn't even think about it before. The first time that I went, you walk into the police headquarters, right? When we go, what are we? Are shackled, handcuffs behind your back, right? So the last time that I went, um, and this is Mashawn Herschler. He's the one that's the CEO from Duggan for Christ. He actually invited me. And I was like, I'm going to the police headquarters. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know how I feel about that. So I went, right? Because of course you're gonna like break those barriers. So we went up there. So I get to the place where you have to check in. They have to wand you or you have the metal detector. So when I'm walking to the metal detector, they said, no, no, ma'am, go ahead and go around there and just go up. So I'm like, my heart, I'm like, what? Like, what is really just happening here? Before 25 years ago, I came through the back in cuffs, and here I am. You're telling me just to go walk up and trusting me enough to walk in here. So we get up there, and there's an officer, Officer Del Green, and they're up there praying for the city of San Antonio. And mind you, I'm with a bunch of officers, detectives, just a bunch of different people that you wouldn't even think that I would be in a room with because of me being an ex felon, right? Being justice impacted. So today I went up there again, and as soon as I went up there, you could feel the Holy Spirit. And I talked to one of the officers, and he tells me, "What is your story?" I said, well, I'm going to give you the elevator version. Of course, what I just shared right now, right? And he was like, I can't see that. But it's changing the culture, changing the dynamics, bridging the gap, because at the end of the day, it's not us against them. It's us as a community changing the whole environment. I told them I no longer want to check the temperature. I want to change the temperature. So this is where I stand with this, and changing the culture with our people. To take away a negative, you have to give a positive. You have to, right? So being up there with them, all these officers in uniform, holding hands and praying, I was just like, man, 25 years, I would have never imagined we would not be in a room together like this, the dynamics of this, but the grace of God and his grace and mercy, of course, and the purpose that I have today. The purpose that I have is so grand. Like it's so amazing. And then of course seeing y'all do what y'all do, it's like, okay, man, it gives me the courage that I need to do because before I'm like, I can't do this. Right. But that's not who I am. That's not who I am. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. But it's been amazing. And is it intimidating? Hell yeah, it's intimidating. Um, some days do I fall like I can't do this? Overwhelming? Yes, it is. There's days when I just want to sit there and scream and cry like Toonch when she gets angry. Um, because we fight, not only that, we fight our own mental health issues too.
Yes.
That's on top of it. So these are things that I struggle and it's real life. So for anybody to know, like for just for people to know that we are struggling, but we're still striving and pushing forward. 25 years is nothing compared to everything that I have ahead of me. You know, I mean, whoa, it's just amazing.
Well, golly, Destiny, you taking us to church right now. I'm like, yeah, like, I mean, I still feel physically bad, but I'm like, oh, I feel a lot better now. Like, I mean, you're cranking us up in that really great way. And I'm so proud of the things that you've done and accomplished. And um, I remember Diane, when you were getting out, she was like, find Destiny. We got to make sure to connect to Destiny because, you know, we try to keep contact with the girls on the inside and our trans folks so that when they come out, they
Yeah.
have some landing spot to be able to love them and surround them with community to stabilize. Because you're right, like we're all struggling big time with trauma and mental health. And so in terms of, let's get into the topic because now that I'm thinking
Oh
mental health
man.
and trauma, because recently, and we talked last week about a video that one of the staff members posted of the girls doing rocking on it, right? Like they were doing the host squad thing, and it was as a gift to one of the sergeants for retirement, you know. And he later made a comment on that post and said, "Well, that was their idea, and they volunteered for that video, and I was a great boss, and I was a great supervisor, and they trusted me, and I'd never asked them to do things that I wouldn't do." Sir, this comment is the exact point that I was trying to make when I posted
Yeah.
about this video, because what you were talking about earlier about culture, when there is a culture of oppression in a system that's rooted um, in slavery, let's just keep it real, right?
Yeah. Facts.
We didn't even know. Like someone at the event in Houston said, Jennifer, I didn't even know what truly happened to me until I got out and I was able to look at it later. You know what I mean? So, Marci, let's get in. Let's talk about the host squad. Tell people what
We
that is.
Yeah, first I want to just kind of describe the video that you're showing, and it was a video posted by a TDCJ staff member on one of their units' Facebook pages, and it was the incarcerated folks lined up with their Aggies. And that's what and they're breaking the ground with their Aggies. And they're up, down. And on top of them, just being in this formation, which is work that all three of us have done during our incarceration. We have worked in the field squad, which we've had a whole episode. We could have a series, a 10 episode series of On the Rec Yard about the in deplorable conditions working the field squad, from restrooms to menstrual care to strip searches. I mean, just the whole thing, right? But this particular video, they were not only lined up in this formation, kind of glorifying that this is still in practice today, but also singing a song that is rooted from plantation times, and just completely cluelessly posting this on social media because they too are clueless to the culture. The staff, some of the staff members are clueless to the culture that is inside of that prison, and they too, I hope, one day when they are out of that position, will step back and think of the ways that the entire system has failed not only incarcerated people, but everybody that touches those units, volunteers, medical staff. That culture is dangerous for everyone. So that's what sparked, that video really sparked this conversation tonight. And so let's get into what is field squad. When you think of that, and we called it host squad because that's what we were talking about. I didn't even know it was field squad, really.
No. Now it's called Field Squad.
Yeah.
Now it's called Field Squad. So when I saw that video, and it goes back to the culture, because being in prison, you don't stop and think about it. But when I saw that and what Jennifer said, it brought tears to my eyes because we do glorify it while we're in there. And I had some hard bosses when I was at Hobby Unit. Hobby and Lane Murray are the two hardest host squads that you ever had, and they literally dogged you out. Like I was terrified to go work for one boss, and he literally tested me, like tested
Mhm.
me to where the point where I was like, if I don't do this, and it was one of the cadences that boss, don't be so mean. We gonna get your field clean. What is that? That's crazy. You know, the things that we say and all that. Uh, and it's a form of abuse because they say that they put you on the whole squad if they're trying to punish you, right? And the things that you're having to do is staying down all the way, touching the metal and skinning it back, like things like that. I still remember it. I still remember all of that. You would come back to where your back would be hurting, or they would, if somebody, okay, the hobby where it's like a I can't even explain it, but we're stripping outside. Everybody is stripping outside to where if you're on a horse, you can see all the females naked, right? And we're standing in the line, everybody but naked. And that's crazy. Like, what kind of behavior is that? Like, and there was a time at Mount View, because he was from Lane Murray, and he took us out there, and there was a storm, and it was to the point to where I remember Streetman was one of them there, boss Streetman, and of course he was not a bad boss. He cared about us. It was just doing his job, but the sergeant there still took us out. The field sergeant took us out, and it was pouring down till I got to the point where I was just so fed up with it. I said, we're not getting off of this trailer. Like, you're not going to make us work. And we're soaking wet. And of course, Priya steps in. We're wearing white clothes, and you could see right through our uniforms. Like, you could see body parts. And of course, I made a big deal because, of course, I'm always making a stand. Um, so the warden had to go to the back gate. We couldn't even strip our clothes off because they were so like stuck to us. It was bad. It was bad. Like, and I was like, if you say that it's bad enough for people to see us in the showers or in the bathrooms, you make such a big deal to protect us. Why aren't you protecting us from your field bosses? You know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that imagery. And first, it's invoking some real serious feelings inside of me. And I want to just thank you for showing up and being vulnerable and advocating while you were in there. Um, and just to say, you said a few things that really attest to that culture of oppression and the true meaning, or the true meaning of why they even have this field squad. And you're saying, like, boss man, you're singing the song boss man, boss, and these are terms that were used during plantation times.
Hmm.
um, and then just to further, and then you said something that they use host squad for punishment. And I really would take it a step further to say that new folks coming into the system, they will put on host squad to break you
Yeah.
into submission.
Yep.
Yes. 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 Destiny, you remember when we were younger, we were kids, they say they don't use these anymore, but I still would spot them every once in a while. But back in the day, you got locked in that little cage out on
Oh
the field.
yeah, at Riverside. Remember at Riverside, they locked
Yeah.
us in. They had to stop them, and it was the sun was beaming down. It got the only reason they stopped it is because the girls got so tired and they shook it and they flipped it over, and the warden had walked up on it. But that's crazy to sit in 100-degree weather and you have somebody sitting out there in a cage with no water. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and I think Marcy's right. Like usually when you come into the system, unless you had, there was medical squads too, which the elderly and people with physical disabilities were put on the medical squad, right? So it's like this introduction to the system meant to break you. It is
Yep.
meant to teach you right when you come in that this is what this is about, and you will submit,
Submit.
you will be
You
broken.
will submit. Yep.
For those of you who have never been inside of a Texas prison, to get a full mental visual of what we're talking about, it is quite literally any plantation movie you have seen that is based in plantation days, and you see people enslaved working the fields. That's the same work. And I
Mhm.
mean, pulling weeds, picking crops, breaking ground, breaking rocks, hauling rocks,
All in
all
rocks.
of these things. It's that same. And we talked about it being a form of punishment. And yes, if you worked your way out of, which I did, out of the host squad and into the better jobs, if you worked your way up and then something happened and you made one of the squad bosses angry, or you got a disciplinary case, you were getting knocked right back down, and then you were getting shamed as you got knocked down, right? And then there's so many things, right? But we're talking about this video that TDCJ posted, and then Sergeant saying, the girls volunteered, they thank you, and I remember being so submerged into that environment. And Destiny, you said it best, that we get institutionalized, we have to fit in to survive in some way. And I remember thinking that my bosses, like, just craving their favor in a way that, as I became more effective in my work on the plantation fields, that I became an oppressor myself, because then I'm lead
And
role. And then,
that is so the truth, because I was just thinking about that before you said that, because they would have lead people, right? And if the people weren't doing what they were supposed to do, what did we do? We pushed them out, right? Because we became the best hands. That's crazy, the best hands. And yet here we are oppressing our own people and thinking that it's okay and it's natural and it's normal, because we've adapted to the environment and become institutionalized. So not only are they oppressing us still, but now we're oppressing our own people. And it was crazy. It was crazy. Picking stuff, right? People would think, well, they're just picking fruits or vegetables or whatever, but you're bent over, bent over. You can't squat. So imagine almost 4 or 5 hours bent over.
what that looks like is literally, if you were to stand up wherever you're at right now and bend over at the waist and touch the ground, left hand, right hand, left hand, right hand. That's the position that you're in for hours. And if you stand up, especially if you're not one of the favored ones who has then become an oppressor, if you stand up, you risk disciplinary treatment. Like, you risk a disciplinary case. You risk not getting to call home to your family for 30 days, or not going to outside rec for 30 days, or, so just to get a stretch and rest your back, you would have to partner up with the people on the rows next to you and say, I got to stand up. And now everybody's watching the law for you, and you stand up and stretch real fast and then get right back down. And I remember how the backs of my legs, and I was in shape, y'all, when I hit the
Just like,
penitentiary. I was 30 years old. I was not this person now. And I was 30 years old. I exercised all the time. And I remember how sore I was on the backs of my legs, and my buttocks, and my lower back would just ache. I remember coming in those first several months on the host squad, just coming in, barely being able to shower, and then going straight to bed and sleeping until it was time to turn out. I wouldn't even
Yes.
hit dinner because I
Right.
couldn't get back out of my bed.
Honey, I was a kid. Well, you know, and I remember the blisters on my ears from the sun. They were pussed and blistered. And if you don't have a good pair of the thick leather work gloves, the cloth gloves are just going to make a slide. So you just got to barehand it. And I had blisters. Do you remember those? Those blisters all on your hands, on your feet. And I remember at Lane Murray, they would have us picking weeds through the razor wire.
Yes.
And I would just come back like just we would pick up Aggies, and there would just be streaks of blood all over it.
We would be hunched underneath. You would have someone with an Aggie holding up the razor wire, and then you would be hunched under the razor wire pulling weeds, and it would catch your head and your hair, and we would be
yep.
bleeding. in our heads and our hands. And yeah, and then if you said, hey, boss, I got cut pretty bad, then you're getting a disciplinary case for a
Right.
careless act.
Right. Yeah. Unsafe act, and so now you've not followed instructions. And it was, I Brittany had said something on the. I had posted that video on TikTok, and the whole clip, I shortened it so I could put it on X, but it was like, we wanted to give you this happy memory, right? And Brittany was like, this wasn't happy. Like, nothing a part of my whole squad experience was a happy, pleasing, wonderful, joyful memory. It ranks right up there when I say strip searching, which it includes strip searching, right? It ranks among the top worst experiences as a woman, as a young girl, that I had to go through. And they did pick on me. The other girls on the host squad were relentless. They terrorized me because there was this culture of oppression that, well, if I'm siding with boss and picking on, the new people, then I look tough and strong. And I was so depressed. I was contemplating suicide when I first got to Lane Murray. It was miserable. And here's the deal, y'all. And I think we talked about this in the last time we talked about host squad. They lose money on field production. That was a big article that Carrie did a couple years ago. It's like, why are y'all holding on to this? And it's because of the culture.
Yep.
That's right. It's not about harvesting food for the units. It's not about making the prison system self-sufficient. It's not about picking crops to sell to make money, or hay, because that's another part of it, is hauling hay. And no, it's not about any of that. It is literally about keeping an oppressed population oppressed. I mean, it is literally about breaking people's spirits. I want to talk, you mentioned strip searches. And Destiny touched on that a bit when she talked about strip searches at Hobby, how they would be outside. And I want to say that those were not just strip searches. Like, those were the worst strip searches.
Oh, Lord, and you don't want one of them field officers doing any of your stripping anywhere at visitation. And because this didn't mean that this was just confined to the field squad work. Those host squad bosses on the unit period, whether it was helping with lockdown, whether it was stripping out for visitation, I remember, I told y'all, that woman that at Lane Murray that made me pull my tampon out in front of 30 women that were sitting in that little bitty strip shack at the back gate in Lane Murray. And we got there for a peer education conference, me and Janet Lozano, and we were late. And two of Lane Murray's field bosses, mean motherfuckers. They were mean. They're big gallon hat women with their, girl, I'm not even gonna go there, but they're like, I said, oh, Jesus, here we go. And Janet didn't know. Janet had been at Mountain View most of her time.
Yeah.
And she'd never been on the field squad. And I said, girl, you got to click off. You got to turn your conscience off, and your modesty and your pain. Just do it.
People think that like this is like graphic and so detailing, but they don't understand, like, this is actually what happened in a female like prison, right? So you get desensitized to everything. Like, there is no more feeling or emotion. It becomes like just repetitive now. We're just doing it now. And that's crazy now that we're out here, like, having to live and adapt to the environment, like our lifestyles now. But there they say strip, right? They come in, Toonchi, you were over there at Mountain View. They come in there and they were like, okay, shake down, strip. What do we all do? We just strip there.
We just start taking things off.
And the field bosses there, like, they don't care. They don't care who you are, how you are. They don't care that you're somebody's daughter, somebody's mother, somebody's sister. I see Jerry Swine is on there. She was about 70 something years old. And having to see them strip like that was crazy to me. Like, it would hurt my heart. And yes, everybody has done something and they got in there, but we were there, like, to do our time. Y'all were over there trying to break us, literally. And I did get breaking to the point, like Toonchi said, like, I was on the verge of committing suicide a couple of times. And it's because of being so oppressed there. And again, the system fails us. Why? Because we don't get the help that we need, right? We don't get the help that we need, being oppressed. And then now I've realized that it's a state of mind now, because I'm a survivor now. I am no longer oppressed no more. I've survived that. So what am I going to do with it now, right? So these are the things that are actually going on in prison, the whole squad, because it's still going on as we're talking about it right now. There, yesterday I was telling Deja, like it was cool, right? The air was breathed, and it was like breeze, and it hurt my heart so much, and it brought tears to my eyes. And I was like, man, I can only imagine that the girls are probably so grateful for a reprieve from the heat, and riding on that trailer to their next destination with just a breeze. And it makes me want to cry now, you know, because this is still going on right now, you know. The whole squad is real, and they say that it's a job in there. They capitalize on us. They capitalize on us, you know. The oppression is real. So of course, like, what's next? What's next?
Thank you for that reminder that we're not just, on this free world rec yard talking about past times. We are quite literally talking about things that are happening, that happened today on a Wednesday in Texas. This has happened to hundreds of incarcerated women and people incarcerated on women's farms. I know men have field squad. I
Yeah.
know it's not a cakewalk for men on field squad. I have
No.
heard horror stories from them, women and people housed on a women's prison unit. They they have a special kind of,
Degradation,
yes,
degradation.
thank you.
For those of us who were at those facilities, it is a. I remember those host squad bosses strip searching us at lockdown, and they were, in at Mountain View, in the gym in there. They had the where the bathrooms were
Downstairs.
downstairs, and so they would take us down there. And I remember them just talk. I mean, the way they degraded us in our bodies and laughing at y'all stink. I mean, we hadn't had a shower in a week. You know what I mean? And it was just like, it's that, on top of the incredibly pointless, hard physical labor, oftentimes, move this stack of rocks over here and then move them back, right? It was the emotional pain that particular experience in prison really, as a girl, as a 18-year-old girl,
Yep.
having to endure that type of shaming and male gaze. I will say, there was a woman on my host squad when I was younger, and we were going to the gate. It would be a long time trying to get in the gate, standing with your squad. And our boss he was a dick. He was, and he was gross. And he walks up to her. She was a very, very pretty girl, and he's uh, trying to flirt with her, essentially. And she didn't really do all that. While she worked, she went to work. She didn't talk to nobody. And he was like, whatever. She looked, um, she looked at him and she said, "Get the away from me." And I was like, oh my God, like she's fixing to get in trouble. And it was one of the few moments that I saw somebody be able to really resist something. And I guess it just stunned him. He was like, she said, "You are not my friend. I don't like you, and I am not here by choice. So don't slide up to me wanting to flirt and talk to me after you dogged us out on those fields." And I was like, oh my, and that memory, that was, God, 20 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. And I never forgot that.
Those field bosses, officers could say whatever they wanted, and some of them use that to their best power. If you upset them, they would make up a whole lie and mess your entire world up, quite literally, even your opportunity at freedom. But those field bosses worked together in a way. They bullied as a group. And I'm so surprised to hear this story, Toonch, because I have just seen those bosses. I have seen them myself plant razor blades in people's cubicle. I watched from the upstairs of F dorm, watching them do a cubicle search and watch Dickerson pull it out of
Yeah.
her pocket,
Yeah.
and act like she's found it in the cubicle. I watched it go down.
That's
So
how it
I'm
was at Hobby. That's how it was at Hobby.
gang like, right?
Yeah. They'll tear all your stuff up. If you have coffee in there, they'll get your coffee and whatever shampoos and they'll put it all over your, and then they'll put your clothes, all your clothes, your whites, and put it in the toilet. So that's just crazy. But like I've realized too, because there was a couple of field bosses, right, that they weren't that bad, right? And but it's kind of hard to balance that with the negative and the positive. But of course, they get ousted because they don't fit in with that culture. And
Yeah.
it's just so
They don't
sad.
last.
Yeah.
It's just
They
so
don't
sad.
last.
Yeah. But that's even in the system period, and that's even out here. Like the negative, it usually always outweighs the positive, right? So I was kind of glad that you asked me to come on here, right? Because at the end of the day, it's up to us to make a difference, right? It's up to us to make a difference. And bringing shedding light on these negative, like instances, and the impacts that we have, right? Because we can share all that and better prepare the people that are out here in society, not just the people that are in there, so we can fight for those that are in there, because we have the power, our voices. Y'all are already doing this to fight to change that culture in there, the cultural norm. But the mindset of our family members that are incarcerated. I have two brothers and a father that's still incarcerated right now. But to get them to change their mindset, not to adapt to the environment in there, but to stand up for what's right. To stand up for what's right. Not to the point to where you get yourself caught up in a hole, because I did. My mouth got me in trouble. I got set up and everything. But of course I was fighting for what's right. But there's ways to be able to fight against these things and tell our family and the people that we still have contacted, because Lioness has y'all have a lot of people in there, man. We had a lot of people that are still involved, but to be able to plant that seed, to be able to change that mindset for them in there, so they can be able to share with somebody else too, right? Because again, our people perish for lack of knowledge. Because at the end of the day, it's not us against them, but we shouldn't just be oppressing our own people either, because that's the biggest thing. If we continue to add to the negativity, what does that say about us? You know? And it's hard. It's hard. Host squad is real, man. When I saw that, that hurt my heart, because I was one of those people that was a lead. I was a good
Yeah.
worker. But what was I? But was I? You
Oh,
know?
definitely. I think about some of the things that I've said to other people on those fields. And I remember instances where people fall out because the work is when you come from a county jail where you're barely even going outside and not getting any exercise. Y'all, some county jails, you're not even allowed to exercise inside. Like that's a rule.
That's
When we
true.
say you're laid up in county jail, people are quite literally laid up in county jail, spending the entire day in their bed. And then they go to prison and they're put on the field squad and it's August and it's hot in the dorm and then it's hot outside and you're in the sun. And guess what? They don't just give you sunblock. Like all of these things, you don't have a water bottle with you. We didn't even talk about the lack of water and dehydration. But then guess what happens? You fall out. People fell out all the time. And as a lead row, it was our responsibility to shame those folks, to halfway carry them while talking ugly to them. I remember the bosses saying things to me like, "You're going to let that hoe make it? You're
Yeah,
carrying her. You're doing
literally.
her job. You're going to let that
Literally.
hoe make it?" And it would crank me up. And just I'm so disappointed in myself that I submerged myself into that culture. And you're right. I think that's something that Lioness is doing to change because I remember in prison, and Jen, you say this all the time, they lie to us and tell us that women don't stick together.
Yeah.
Linus has proved that
Yeah.
theory. It's blown it out of the water because clearly we do. And I believe that we are changing the culture from within, or at least the mindset. Linus has over 400 currently incarcerated members. Big shout out to Diane, our superstar, who corresponds with all of those members and keeps in touch and replies to them and brings their needs because they drive our work to the front line, right? But I think you're right. We've got to change the culture, not just of the staff, but the entire environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's you know, it's what we were talking when we had dinner that night in Huntsville. We were talking about that very same thing that we've already mentioned is I didn't know that I was participating in my own devaluation. And I remember, and it wasn't the host squad, but it was the culture, right? Destiny know that education building in Mountain View. That little group we called it the
Yeah.
Hornet's Nest. That little office with those three officers. Now,
Oh man, they terrorize us.
oh my God! Now, individually, each one of those women were totally different by themselves.
Yeah.
But when they were in that office together, we'd be like, girl, that the hornets or the hornet nest is stirred up. And they're women, female officers. And it was just this constant, just like making fun of like they didn't even see what it was, right? It was like just constantly making jokes at our expenses and like, and that feeling that you have where you have to kind of be like, oh, yeah, oh, I'm a dumbass. So, ha ha ha, all this shit, right? And one day I just couldn't. I said it was the new year, and Miss Blanchard, the librarian, said, "Poor Miss Blanchard." I gave that lady the blues. She said, "Well, what's your New Year's resolution goal, Toon?" I said, and they were in that office in that cage, and they just going on, just shaming people about bleeding on themselves and laughing at somebody, and I said, well, this year I will no longer be participating in my own devaluation and degradation. I
Yep.
won't. And she, like Miss Blanchard's eyes got real big because she already knew I was finna go off. And they got real quiet, shuffling their papers. I said, I am no longer laughing at shit at my. I'm sorry, I'm full of sorry. I'm using a lot of profanity. I'm sorry. I'm no longer participating in laughing at myself so that you feel good, right? Like you want us to participate in the ways that you abuse us and us laugh and joke about it so you feel good about it. I'm not doing it anymore. And Miss Blanchard's like, oh, well, I'm going to change my diet. So she tried to talk about something else because it was even, in that building, and that building in Wyndham was my safe haven all those years. But the culture of oppression in those facilities, it extends even beyond the host squad, and I think it's very unique the way that they do that to us in those women's facilities. It's very unique.
Well,
You
we
know,
have so many.
Miss Soto. Remember Miss Soto?
Oh, yes.
Jennifer? Okay, well,
She hit Lane Murray after Mountain View.
okay. So listen. So she, of course, she got fired. This is just how good God is. Well, she's a friend of mine on Facebook now, and she has reached out and she has apologized. Yes, this is how God is. Has reached out and has apologized for for all the stuff that she's done to all of us in prison because she got a taste of her own medicine. And I'm like, no, you apologizing is enough. That's enough. You know what I'm saying? I said it doesn't take back what you do, but thank you for that. You owning up to it now says a lot because she tore us down. She tore us down, but she got a humbling experience. But at the end of the day, the culture of the prison systems, they teach them how to be that way. When you go into training, they tell you this is what you do. This is why before I got out, I was able to talk to the new boots and tell them you set the temperature, and how you act is how people are going to treat you in the system. You don't have to go in there and be one way, but just be the same way all the time, because you're human, and if you have problems out there, you don't want us to take it out on you and your problems, right? Because we go through things too. It's a two-way street. Everybody is human. We're all human. Whether you're wearing white and you're in gray, at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And that's the problem that prison systems, period. Even the police officers out here now, we forget to see past the uniform. They forgot to see us past the white uniform, and we forgot to see them past that uniform. But we adapt to the culture. We
Thank you
adapt to
for
the
that.
culture.
Yeah, thank you for that reminder. And you're just making me think about an instance where I was recently at the Tarrant County Jail helping a friend, and I walk out, and an officer holds the door for me. And I went to another door. I just, and my friend's like, why are you doing that? And I said, because if I was in my uniform that I had to wear for a decade inside of Texas prisons, he wouldn't be treating me politely. I don't know that man. Who knows? He could be a desk sergeant that never has even worked the streets or a jail, or I don't know his job or his life. But it has left such my experience inside of Texas prisons has left such a bad taste in my mouth that you're right. We need to remember that if we do want a true culture change, not only do we need for staff to see incarcerated people as humans, but we also need incarcerated people and formerly incarcerated people to see staff as humans. So thank you for that. It's very wise words from somebody that hasn't been out of prison very long. I don't want to let this pass. AIC's advocate is always on point with bringing us in. He's asking, do you want folks to follow you on social media, Destiny? Can we?
Sure.
Yeah. So tell us what your handle is, and are you on TikTok? Or are you just on Facebook?
I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. I'm pretty much on everything. And I don't really post nothing negative at all because I'm all for empowering people. That's my cause. That is the cause that I have. If I can just reach out one person, 25 years is well worth it.
Do they just search up your name, Destiny,
I'll pop
or
up. I'll pop up. If they just put my name in, I'll pop up.
will you
Same
write?
middle
So
face.
we have the correct spelling, and you can
Yeah.
also find her on our pages because we tag her in
Yeah.
pictures. But if you would type in your spelling in the chat of your whole name, and I'll put it on the screen for everybody, just so we have the exact correct spelling and I don't mess it up. I would hate for people to be looking for you and not be able to find you. You're certainly getting a lot of love from our family here on the Rec Yard. They're really grateful that you're here, and so are we, Destiny, because you you keep talking about you and Jen, me and Jen doing all of this stuff, but it's you too, sister. It's you too. We see you. You came out and you're fighting, and um, you're on top of it. I see you put it here. I'm going to put it in this chat, and then let's do it like this. Let me highlight it. You guys be sure and look up Destiny. You can see her on Facebook. If you have trouble finding her, message us. If you want to follow her, message us, and we'll get her to you. Thank you so much, Destiny. Again, we are down to our last few minutes. Toonch, I'm nervous to hand it over to you.
Oh boy, because you know I'm just going to keep talking. Well, I'm glad that I made it tonight. It was worth it. I still have an incredible headache, but just being with y'all, and I can't wait for Belinda to be able to get off her monitor and come and us all be. I could get choked up thinking about it because y'all literally are my family, and I see, all of our family here in the chat. I see Sean and Mandy and Donice and Eric, and I just, y'all, my family got ripped away from me when I was 15. And so I made a family. And I'm just so proud of you. And I'm proud to be your friend and to watch you grow. So thank you for coming tonight.
Well done, Toonch. I'm impressed. This is 2 times in a row that you had a deadline to say a little something.
Honey, I live in fear of you. I live in fear of you. So
that's a good, safe place to live, actually, because when you stop fearing, that's when it becomes the mess, right?
Definitely.
And we didn't forget about you, Randolph. We see you. We have missed you. Thank you, everyone. I see y'all chiming in from LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, all the places, and we appreciate you. I want to put this up. So Larissa has so graciously put your TikTok handle. And so I want to make sure we have that there. And you guys can follow Destiny Villarreal on Facebook or TikTok. TikTok, for those of you that are listening and not watching, her name is Shavon68, SHAVON 68. That's her TikTok handle. Thank you all so much for joining us. Destiny, thank you so much for the incredible insight you've given us. We appreciate you so much. For those of you that are watching us now, thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking and sharing the live. For those of you that are listening, wherever you hear your favorite podcasters, please do leave us a review. That makes our day. And it helps our podcast reach even more people.
That's right. That's right.
I almost can't close this out. We'll be here next week. See y'all then.
Bye.
Love y'all.